All right, so here we are for Quiz 6 walkthrough. So Module 6 is all about financial calculations, so this quiz is going to walk us through that as well as show us some cool index match function. So here we've got a home price with a down payment of 20%. Therefore, the loan is that for 30 years, an interest rate. Here's our monthly payment using the PMT function, total interest, total cost of the house. So see how that 30-year note will cost you $158,000 if you only pay it off for $1,030 a month. So what happens if we bump it up to $1,100? How long before the loan is paid off there? All right, so you have to use the number of periods. And to do this, there's the interest rate, but that is the annual interest rate. So you have to divide that by 12 in order to get the periodic, or in this case, the monthly interest rate. And then the amount of the payment. The present value of the loan is not the home price, but the amount of the loan here. See, I think we have to put a negative sign out in front of it so that our answer comes up to be positive. The future value of this is 0, since at the end of the loan there'll be 0 amount left to pay on it. And the other default value is 0, so we can just close our parentheses here. And there you go. So how many years is that? Well, we're just going to take this number of months and divide it by 12, but it says to round it. So we have to come up here to the formula, and out in front of that D11, just type in the word round. Just type in the word round up here, and then go to the end of your formula and put a comma, and then the number of digits we want to round it to is 0, so that comes out to 27 years. All right, so let's look at this. So while we're saving for that down payment of $53,000, let's rent for a little while. So for this great big table here, they've gone ahead and given this group of cells the name of FMR underscore 2020. So that's fine. We'll use that in our formulas. But what this formula does for each county, for each MSA and metropolitan service area, what are the costs of the average rental for efficiency, 1 through 4 bedrooms, etc. So we need the intersection of the county. And if we come down here and look, what is Arlington County? Looks like the 8th month. So that's going to be the 8th row of this table. So the 4th column over here is the 1-bedroom column. So that means we want the intersection of the 8th row and the 4th column in our index function. So index, and our array is that FMR 2020 named range. And then we need a row number. Now we don't want to just put an 8 in here. We want to look up the county of Arlington County and then have that calculate it and give me the 8, the number 8. So I want to match this cell here to the cell range that they've called counties. And that's basically that column A over in that other sheet. And then an exact match. Close that. For the column number, I want the number 4. And that comes up with $1,500. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we just took that formula for the 2-bedroom and were able to drag it down and have it work? But the way the data is structured in this current assignment, that doesn't work. But I'll show you why and how we could get it to work here in a minute. So first off, we want the 2-bedroom unit. So that means the column number has to be a 5. And what else is wrong? Oh, when I dragged it down, that D15 turned into a D16. So if I change that, we get the right answer. And that's the way you should submit your homework. But I want to show you something else, a shortcut that uses this index match combination to make everything work better. So first off, in order to drag it down, I would put a dollar sign in front of that 15 so that it doesn't shift to 16. Now I need to come up with a way to change that. Oops, Zeus says hi. I need to find the 1-bedroom in that other table. So I'm going to use a match function. And for my lookup value, I want the 1-bedroom here. And then in the range of cells, I want this. So hopefully it finds the word one bedroom in here and returns a value of 4, which then gives me the exact same answer. Now, in order for me to drag this down, I need $signs in front of the rows again. I need to tell it the second match function that it's an exact match. And then hit enter. And it didn't work. Now, why is that? I looked at the formula. Yeah, match, find the row, find the column. It should work. The problem is in the underlying data. Here we have one bedroom with a space. And over here, the wonderful people at SIMnet put a dash in there instead of a space. So if I make my lookup values and my column headers the exact same thing, this index match stuff works really well. And we can use it for all kinds of neat stuff. Now if I take that formula that's all properly referenced and the two match functions that actually work, then I can take this formula and just drag it down. And it works, and all is good. And that's the power of the index match combination. Unfortunately, the folks at SIMnet didn't set that up correctly. So we have to set it back to the way that we want. So I'm just going to hit Control Z a bunch of times and get it back to the silly way they wanted you to do it. So, all right, all is good. Let's make sure that I didn't mess up my formulas, because I know that it's D15, column 4, column 5. Okay, so those are all the way that SIMnet wants it, and you'll get a perfect score if you do that. I've already emailed them asking them to change it to the proper way, but that's not going to happen this semester. So now we've got this savings plan, and we've got a monthly savings of $500 at 1.5% for 24 months. How much will I save at the end of that? So if I'm saving for my next car, I'm putting the money in a money market account, it looks like, for about 1.5%. So this is the future value of this money. How much is $500 for 24 months at 1.5%? How much is that in the future? How much money will I have in order to buy my car? And I don't like down payments. I don't do loans. I'm going to have $12,000 to buy a decent car in 2 years. That's the future value function. Now, let's do this retirement account. What happens if I invest $500 a month for 25 years at an annual rate of 4%? So that equals future value, FV. The rate is 4%. Again, we're going to divide that by 12. And then for the number of periods, it's 25 years times 12. And then the payment is a negative $500 because the money is flowing away from me, comma. And the present value is 0. So I can do that and hit enter. What happens if I change it to 10%? How much money will I have? Well, I got over 600,000. So that's a good thing. That's why you want to invest your retirement account at 10% as opposed to 4%. But let's say that I did it at 4%. And how long, once I've got that $257,000 built up in some type of a retirement account, if I intend on living 30 years after that, how much money can I withdraw out of that account for 30 years and end up with a net value of 0 at the end of that 30 years? So put in all these values, the future value is 0. I get paid at the beginning of the month. Oop, it's a negative number, so I have to come back here and put in the negative sign in front of the payment. And there's how much I get to pay myself for 30 years is $1,200. All right, so if we're doing another financial calculations, we've got some annuities out here. So if we pay in $20,000, what's the value of this money now at 1.5%? To do that, we have to do the present value function. So for an annuity, if I put in $20,000 and get out $24,000 over the course of the 120 months at 1.5%, how much is the present value of that? So how much would I have to put in at 1% just to get out my 24,000 at 1.5%? So this is the present value formula. So I do the rate divide by 12 and then take B6, which is the number of monthly payments over 10 years. That's 120. And then the annual payment is negative 200, and I get 22,301. What happens if I do 5%? What happens if I were to put in 5%, I would actually only have to put in $18,000 as opposed to $20,000, but that's what happens when you invest at 1.5%. All right, so down here, what's the net present value based on a variable amount withdrawn? So some months I take out 12, or some years I take out 1250. Some years I take out 5,000. What's the value of this money in this? So you just take the interest rate annually and then those annual payments, and it comes out to $21,865. So what happens if I change that to 10%? How much would I have to invest originally? And the top one goes down to 15 grand to get my 20 grand out. And down here, it would only be $13,000. So you want to get a better interest rate than 1.5% upon retirement. But that's what you get a lot of times in some of these annuities. So that's why I don't use them. I invest it on my own out in mutual funds. But all right, so let's go ahead and submit this. Yes, submit the file. Hopefully I got the perfect score. Yay, 9 out of 9. All right, so that's it for quiz 6. Good job. And hopefully you learned a little bit about some of the financial calculations. And go Knowles.